Hey everyone, we are in the arcade. What I want to do today is a quick overall tour of each of the individual games. What I do is I collect from what is considered the golden era of arcade or video game collecting. That would be the years 1979 to 1983. Some people might argue that. 79 to 83, 84. The only game that I have outside of those years is Outrun over there. These games came in really 4 different styles of cabinets. The first would be an upright, which you see before you was a game that you stood at and played, and then you also had a cocktail version which you would sit down in or get inside in some sort of manner to play the game, and then you had cocktails as well as minis and cabarets. Over the last few years I've gotten enough games now where you can really simulate the overall arcade experience from the sounds and the sights of being in an arcade from the mid-80s. Even the smells. These games have a distinct smell to them as well. But my overall plan is to one day renovate the basement down here and turn it into a Flynn's style arcade. You can see over there I've got an old phone and Coke machine. Also, what I've done is each of these games take quarters. That seems sort of obvious. You would have put quarters in them in the arcade, and that's the reason I've done that. But believe it or not, a number of people in their home arcades will set these games to free play through the dip switch settings on the PCBs, or there are a number of modifications that you can get to your game boards that will allow you to put your games in free play. And along with that, those modifications, they will save high scores. Some of these games originally when they came out had batteries on the PCBs, and that would allow you to save high scores, but those batteries after 30 years have generally corroded, and if they haven't stopped your board from working, they need to be replaced. But you can find some solid state type hardware that you can put on your board that will save scores. So generally all of these games save scores, maybe with the exception over there of Dragon's Lair. But we'll go ahead and get started. Here is Galaga and Miss Pac-Man. I guess another thing I want to add before we get going on this is the games that I started collecting were the character-driven games. That would be really all of this row right here. Q-bert, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, maybe even Punch-Out might be considered one of those. But in 1981-82, I was really in 1st and 2nd grade. Those were the games that when I went to the arcade that I would play. It's been within the last 5 or so years that I've started filling in my collection with some of the vector games like Tempest over there and Asteroids. Those were the games that were in the arcade. I would see them in the arcade, walk past them to get to the other games, but just necessarily, didn't play those, but they were in there nonetheless. So here we have Galaga and Miss Pac-Man. Like I said, I'd probably play those about 90% of the time. One of the things with Miss Pac-Man is I have a 16-in-1 kit installed on that. There's a number of kits that you can get for Miss Pac-Mans, but I've installed that kit right there. Here we have a Super Pac-Man. Super Pac-Man was really a sequel to Miss Pac-Man. There's also Baby Pac-Man and Professor Pac-Man. And also in this game, I have Junior Pac-Man. This is a JAMA wired cabinet. JAMA was a universal wiring, Japanese wiring. And I've got what's called a double JAMA adapter in there that allows me to put 2 boards into the same cabinet. Here we have an Atari Centipede. Great classic game here, and next to it another Atari made game, Dig Dug, and on the end is a Williams made game, Moon Patrol. Williams was a pinball manufacturer that got into making arcade games. Some of their other titles, Defender and Robotron. Here we have a Q-bert, which was made by Gottlieb, which was also a pinball manufacturer. This by far was their most popular title, really got into contemporary culture at the time. You'd see Q-bert on lunch boxes, on commercials. This by far is my best game, the game that's in the best shape, A1 condition here. I went through and all the sides have been repainted. You can find reproduction artworks, side art there, reproduction control panel overlays, reproduction buttons, joysticks, a number of coin mechs you can find out there, as well as the T-molding. This right here is a Donkey Kong. I'm sort of in the process of really restoring it, but I've replaced a number of things on it, including the joystick. I was trying to go for a high score there a few years ago. Kind of felt that was what was holding me back, so I replaced the joystick. This has a double Donkey Kong in it, so it plays both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. You see Donkey Kong Jr. there. That's a Nintendo game. Next to it, we have Mario Brothers that was made by Nintendo. Mario Brothers is one of those games. It had a dedicated cabinet. This is not the dedicated cabinet. The dedicated cabinet is called a wide body. What I did a few years back, this is actually a Nintendo versus cabinet, and I found a Mario Brothers kit, and I put that Mario Brothers kit on here. There is a reproduction Mario Brothers overlay that I need to install. I'll get to that at some point. But on the inside, I did the JAMA wiring with a double JAMA adapter, and this one also plays Jungle Hunt as well. Here we have a Punch-Out. Punch-Out was a Nintendo game, and what was unique about it is that it had two monitors that you would use during gameplay. Here we have a Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair is a Cinematronics game, and what was great about it is it was an animation by Don Bluth, who was a Disney animator before he started creating these games. This has a Sony Laserdisc player on the inside, and I used to see this game in the arcade, and I never played it because it always took 2 quarters, and the people that I saw play it, their 2 quarters would last all of about 10 seconds, so I might watch somebody play the game, but that was about as close as I got to it. Here we have an Outrun. This Outrun is in just absolutely beautiful shape. I've spent a lot of time restoring it. The decal right here on the steering wheel is something that collectors search after and that you want to have on your Outrun. I could get into even replacing the side art over here. I try to leave my games as original as possible. The Tempest right here is 100% original. I found this from a guy who had owned it for the last 30 years. Just absolutely beautiful. This has got a color vector monitor in it. A color vector is different than a color raster. This would be a color raster right here. And color vectors, this is the original monitor to the game. A raster monitor, up until a few years ago, you could buy new raster monitors, and that's what I would typically do when I restored a game. I would buy a new monitor, pop it in, and be done with it. But now you've got to go back, and for a raster monitor, you've got to find an original one or a new one that somebody hasn't used. Here we have an Asteroids. Asteroids, very popular game. There were 70,000 of these units made. This is a black and white vector monitor, also a vector monitor like the Tempest, but just no color. And what's unique about this game, this is a white Asteroids, and you guys might have never seen a white Asteroids, and I had never seen one before this one. And I did a little research on the internet, and it's believed that the white Asteroids, the last 100 or so that came off the assembly line, they made white to commemorate the final run. And if you look at the serial number on this one, the serial number is 79000. So this is the 79,000 Asteroids, and as far as I know, this might be the last Asteroids that was ever made. Asteroids had a sequel, which was Asteroids Deluxe. It also had a black and white vector monitor in it. This monitor right here is having some issues. I got to get worked out. Next to it is a pole position. Pole position came in a stand-up, upright, as well as a cockpit. This cockpit right here I got for $100 locally. I put a new monitor in it and a new PCB, and it has worked flawlessly ever since. And to tell you the truth, when both of the pole positions are working, 90% of the time, everybody plays this one. Here we have a Missile Command Cockpit. This is considered one of the Holy Grails of arcade collecting. Some say that 250 of these were made, maybe as few as 99. I am a part of a registry, and on that registry there's only about 12 or 13 of us. So there are very few Missile Command Cockpits left. It's just an absolutely huge game. This one is in fairly good condition. On the inside you have a 25-inch color raster monitor, which is absolutely huge, which creates a great effect. A lot of fun to play here. You can see the trackball. You sit on the inside. Feels like you're in some sort of spaceship. Here we have a Discs of Tron, the environmental cabinet. Some would argue that this is the best cabinet game ever made, and I might be one of those that argues that. This cabinet is absolutely gorgeous. It's got a number of black lights on the inside that flicker on and off during gameplay. It's just with the colors. This game was made to go with the Disney Tron movie that came out, and you were meant to feel like you were on the inside, really, of a computer playing the game. But here we have the 3D marquee up top, the Tron marquee at the bottom. On the inside, you stood on a disc that was lit up by the black light. This is the original disc right here. They make reproductions for this, but this one has such great color, I've decided to leave it for now. This game took 2 quarters to play. On the inside, you can see the translucent joystick that was lit up by the black light right here on the control panel with your spinner. And the game itself is just absolutely gorgeous. The monitor is down here, and it's reflected up onto a transparent mirror. And in the back, you can see a 2D city. Just a really neat effect. And all of these lights light up during gameplay. There's some lights up here. You might not be able to see those, but just a lot of fun. Really, really gorgeous piece of art as far as the game. But what was also unique in this game is you stood in it in the back instead of sat down. So you sort of hunched over onto a disc like the player in the game. The last game we have right here is a Star Wars Cockpit. This game, I was real fortunate a few years ago to find one of these. It's in beautiful shape. Somebody's done a little bit of restoration to it. But one of the things that's sought after with collectors is the original 25-inch color vector monitor, and that's what you see before you, and it is absolutely huge. When I found this game, it had a 19-inch color vector in it from a Tempest, and you know, it was pretty fun to play, but I got real lucky and found a tube and popped the tube in, and the tubes work pretty well ever since. But this game is just beautiful, a lot of fun. We're on the inside. You can see it's got this sort of transparent top. You feel like you're in a cockpit. But guys, that is the arcade. That's a quick tour. I appreciate you watching. If you would hit the subscribe button there and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. If you've got any questions, you can go ahead and type your questions in, or anything that you would like to see, go ahead and type that in, and I will try to be as accommodating as possible. Like I said, what I'm going to do over the next few months or so is get individual videos up of each of these games, talking about where I got them, what I've done to them, some gameplay. But that is it. I appreciate you watching. Happy gaming, and take care.